Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to jump right into an unbelievable journey today, tracking the incredible physical path of a tiny, shiny little beetle. Our story actually kicks off deep inside the Emperor's royal stable. Picture this. It's home to an absolutely beautiful warhorse. This horse has slender legs, bright, intelligent eyes, and a mane that falls perfectly down its neck like a veil. And this isn't just any horse. It carried its master through the fire and thick smoke of the battlefield, literally saving the Emperor's life and his crown. So, to reward such selfless bravery, the Emperor awarded this magnificent animal a pair of gleaming golden horseshoes.
So, while this majestic horse was relaxing in the stable, enjoying some well-deserved pampering from a groom, a tiny little voice suddenly shattered the quiet. And this voice was shouting out right from a small crack in the stable's wooden wall. The groom looked all around, totally confused, until he finally spotted the shiny little beetle sitting inside the wood, and this little guy was loudly demanding to know exactly when he was going to get a pair of golden shoes for his own 6 feet.
The groom was completely taken aback. He patiently explained that the horse had earned these golden shoes through selfless bravery in battle. But instead of understanding, the beetle took this as a massive personal insult. He declared right then and there that he was leaving to go out into the world and seek his own fortune.
Off he went. The insulted beetle flew straight out of the stable. After a short flight, he touched down in this beautiful, fragrant flower garden. It was absolutely overflowing with blooming roses and fresh lavender. And fluttering all around were these ladybugs, sporting their signature red and black shells and delicate little wings.
One of the ladybugs paused, fluttering her wings, and sighed, praising just how beautiful their home was, calling it a true paradise.
But our beetle, he totally dismissed the garden. He bluntly told her it wasn't even as good as a dung heap and just kept moving right along. Eventually, he wandered into the shadow of a massive haystack, where he found a caterpillar slowly crawling along in the warm sun.
The caterpillar was having a great time, happily soaking up the rays. He was talking about how he couldn't wait to go to sleep because when he woke up, he'd have beautiful wings and be able to fly like a butterfly. The beetle immediately shot back, pointing out that he already had wings of his own. To prove his point, he spread them wide and took off, flying right across the sprawling royal lawn.
After a pretty long flight, the beetle was exhausted and had to land. But the moment he did, he got caught in a sudden, massive thunderstorm. He was tumbling over and over in the heavy, pouring water. Finally, he managed to creep into the folds of an old, damp linen dress that had been left out on the grass to bleach.
He hid inside that wet linen for a full day and night. When he finally crawled out, he saw 2 frogs sitting nearby. Their bright eyes were just glistening with pure joy from the storm. The frogs were loudly praising how incredibly refreshing and wet the linen was. They even said it was almost as amazing as lying right in a wet ditch.
Hearing this, the beetle asked the frogs about finding a dunghill, not once but 4 times. When they completely ignored him, he gave up, walked a little farther, and literally stumbled onto a piece of a broken clay pot.
Getting a closer look, he realized there were several highly sociable families of pincher bugs, earwigs, sheltering right inside it. And they immediately started using the little nippers on their tails to pinch at his legs.
The pincher bug mothers were absolutely beaming with pride. They were enthusiastically discussing their baby's wild ambitions to creep right into a clergyman's ear. But the beetle quickly got fed up with all the pinching and walked off, determined to find a good ditch.
He finally stepped down into the rich, soft mud of a ditch, where he bumped into several other beetles. He casually lied to them, claiming he was actually born with golden shoes and was out on a highly secret mission. Then, just to avoid having to marry one of the giggling beetle maids, he hastily flew away. This flight took him straight through the partly open window of a hot, lush greenhouse filled with plants. He found some warm earth and fell right asleep, but then 2 young boys suddenly burst into the greenhouse, grabbed him out of the dirt, and jammed him straight into a pocket. The boys ran down to a lake and made a rough little boat out of an old shoe. They set up a little stick for a mast, tied the poor beetle to it with some string, and pushed him right out into the wild, rippling water of the lake. As the boat bobbed around, a little fly landed right on top of the mast. The fly started sunning itself and actually told the beetle what a wonderful time he must be having, acting as the captain of his own ship. The beetle complained bitterly. He was furious, yelling about being tied to a mast and left completely at the mercy of the wild waves, while the Emperor's horse got to prance around back home in golden shoes.
Just when the Beetle thought it was all over, a real boat carrying some young girls rode right up alongside the floating wooden shoe.
One of the girls leaned over with a tiny pair of scissors and very carefully snipped the string. She picked up the exhausted Beetle, placed him on the grass on the shore, and the second he was free, he flew straight through the very first open window he could find. He landed on what felt like a familiar blanket of hair, and looking around, the Beetle realized he had actually flown right back into the royal stable. Not only that, but he had landed straight on the back of the Emperor's horse. Seeing those golden shoes, he thought to himself that they were given to the horse purely so it could carry him, and with that, having completed this massive, chaotic journey across gardens, storms, and lakes, only to end up exactly where he started, he finally closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep in the bright sun.